Morning, or depending when you're listening to this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross and I was always told I had a voice for radio, so today I am showing you around from Norwich Regional Championships. I went down to the lovely Athena Games in Norwich, one of my favourite venues in the UK, and I do not mind saying that out loud. Thank you to all the people down there. They made it super easy for us to record. They made us incredibly welcome, and I thank them for it. And I recorded a whole bunch of games from their regional championship, one of which you are seeing now. The format for this is expanded, and breakpoint is legal, so the format here is from black and white all the way to breakpoint. We are playing 50 minutes best of 3, black and white to breakpoint, so sit yourselves down, grab yourselves a nice beverage, hot or cold, your choice, and enjoy this game from Norwich Regional Championships. 50 minutes best of 3, black and white to breakpoint. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so on the right we have Jonathan Cowley. I will once again be calling him Jono. We saw him in the previous round taking down, spoiler alert, a Seismitoad Slowking. And on the left we have got Luke Burke, and he is apparently going to be playing some kind of Yveltal variant, one of these dark decks. And while we're here, ladies and gentlemen, might I point you towards a video I made about dark decks, one of my slideshow style videos that people, to be honest, have been giving very good feedback about. If I remember, I'll pop a link in the description, but go and check it out if you want to learn more about these dark decks. So straight away Luke plays an Ultra Ball. He gets to discard any 2 cards from his hand. He discards a couple of lesser played supporters, a Hex Maniac and a Lysander. He's probably playing 1 and 2 of them respectively. He's going to be able to reuse them with the item card VS Seeker later in the game. That allows you to grab supporters out of your discard pile, so there's no point, keeping them in your hand. You can empty out your hand. Now, he might be going for a Shaman here. Grabbing a Shaman will allow him to draw extra cards, or he might be going for another Pokemon, a Hooper if he plays one. But no Hooper, just a Darkrai EX here. Oh, but he's got another Ultra Ball straight away, getting rid of a Floatstone and a Hypnotoxic Laser, and now he grabs a Shaman. Now he's got a hand of just 1 card, so he can play that Shaman, draw until he's got 6 cards in his hand, and he's emptied out his hand quite nicely here. Now, Luke's deck, a lot of it is going to be weak to lightning. All of his Yveltals are weak to lightning, and as we saw in the previous round, Jono's deck is largely lightning based. He plays Jolteon EX, he plays Raikou EX, etc, etc. Raikou EX, just Raikou. All of whom will take down those Yveltals very, very quickly. Now, Luke gets a DCE on the Yveltal, and he gets a turn 1 Getsis. And we saw previously how harsh that can be. Oh, and that's a very, very good Getsis. It's a very good Getsis indeed. He gets rid of that computer search, which would allow Jono to search for any 2 cards he wants. And Jono's in a little bit of trouble here, just like we saw in Game 2 between Jono and Adam. Oh, and we see a Laser Verbank as well, and a Heads. Now, just like we saw in the game between Jono and Adam, Jono here is, and we're actually in the same position, because it's Jono that's been Getsist, when all he's got is a Colrus, and his opponent has got 2 Pokemon on the bench. Now, it allows him to shuffle his hand into his deck and draw as many bench Pokemon as both players have. So unless he top decks something, he's going to be Colrusing for 2. Now, in the game against Adam, he top decked the best thing he could get, that being a Shaman, as Luke uses a Trainer's Mail to grab a Sycamore. Here, it's not quite so bad. Oh, no. Yes, here it is bad, because, well, if he can grab an Ultra Ball as his top deck, but unless he grabs something good as his top deck, he's going to have to Colrus. And as we saw before, if he Colruses for 2 and grabs an Ultra Ball, he can't play that Ultra Ball. If he Colruses for 2 and grabs Supporter, he can't play that Supporter. So he grabs a Rough Seas. That's not a bad top deck. It means that he gets to heal all that damage done by the laser. And now we see the Colrus for 2. Now this is going to be a very big thing. Now if he grabs a... Now, the difference here is he's got a Raikou in the active, not a Tynamo. Difference in the last... If you haven't seen the last game, by the way, there is a link in the description. You should have watched it by now. But the difference is that he's got a Raikou, not a Tynamo. So that Raikou is probably not going to be KO'd this turn. Although, actually, no, I take that back. It is going to be KO'd. He gets a Tynamo. No, it's not going to be KO'd, sorry, because, well, it depends what Luke plays here. Luke is going to be able to do essentially 80 damage with Yveltal. Don't forget Raikou's ability. But with something like a Hex Maniac in a Burbank City gym, I believe that might actually be enough. Yes, that would then be enough for the KO. Actually, I think just a Hex Maniac would be... No, I'm lying to you. No, it would. A Hex Maniac would be enough to get the KO here. Because that Evil Tower with free energy would be doing 80 damage. 100 damage. No, 80 damage. Man, my maths is failing me today, ladies and gentlemen. This is what Evil Tower does to you. Essentially, Evil Tower with free energy will be doing 80 damage. But then you'd need to take off the 20 for Raikou unless you use the Hex Maniac to turn off his ability. Then we'd do 30 for the poison. So, yes, so with a laser and a Hex Maniac, it would put him up to 120. That's a lot to do just to get a KO on a Raikou. So we'd have an attack for 80 once the ability was turned off. He's already on 10, which put him 90 total. Laser Verbank would put him up to 120 and get the KO. Now, what Luke is going to try and do here is put that... Now, he needs a Dark Patch here. He puts a DC on the Evil Tower, then he uses Keldeo to rush in. If he's got a Float Stone... Now, there's the Dark Patch. If he's got a Float Stone here, he can then free retreat the Keldeo. Oh, and he Shamans for 5. If he hits a Dark Float Stone here, he can free retreat the Keldeo. And now he does have the KO. Because instead of a free energy Evil Tower, we've now got a 5 energy Evil Tower. So he'd be doing 100. Because the 20 base damage would be... what's the word I'm looking for? Evened out, shall we say, by Raikou's ability, which blocks 20. So the 5 energy does 100, plus the 20 on Evil Tower does 120. Plus the laser does 140. Oh, yeah, so he's easily got it. He's easily got it. Now, when I was doing my maths a minute ago, I was forgetting the 20 damage done by the Raikou, but it's all a complete moot point, because he never did actually play a Burbank City Gym, so it's a complete waste of time. So sorry about my maths a minute ago, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm back now. I've got my maths sorted out. So Luke plays the AZ, picks up the Keldeo, doesn't really want to play the supporter for his turn just to get the Keldeo out of the active, but you know what? He's getting the KO here. So he's actually doing 120 plus the 10 is 130 plus the 2 turns of laser is 150. And Jono just says, you know what? I've got nothing. I've got nothing this game. There's nothing that I can do. So there we go. So I made this point in my Dark deck. Evil Tau is really, really good in terms of helping to teach your kids maths, or at least add up in terms of 20. The awkward thing is, of course, it does 20 damage for each energy attached to both actives, plus 20 on the for just the base damage, just as it is. Then you've got to take away the 20 for the Raikou's ability, then you've got to add on all the laser. And I like to consider myself an intelligent man. I did, well, those of you in the US, I did what we call A-levels, which are qualifications we do between the age of 16 and 18. I did lots of maths at that stage. I should be better at counting in increments of 20. But there we go. We got there in the end, ladies and gentlemen. Luke got the KO on the Raikou. And what we saw there was the power of a turn 1 Getsis. That was the absolute key in that particular game. Luke, now had Luke not played the Getsis, Jono had a computer search and he would have been off. I mean, at the worst case scenario, he could have just used that computer search to grab himself a Sycamore and get a new hand of 7 cards. He would have been fine. As it was, Luke Getsist him, he Colress for 2, he didn't really draw anything other than a Tynamo, and then there was nothing he could do. He just, even if he'd carried on playing the game, there was nothing he could do. So these things happen. He did scoop nice and early though, so we've got plenty of time for games 2 and 3 if the players choose to go through them. I should point out, I think we're actually in round 5. There was no game recorded in round 3 because, well, long story short, the only person that could have been on stream is someone who does not deserve to be on stream. I'm not going to go into the details, but suffice to say, I didn't fancy commentating their game. There's a story behind it, ladies and gentlemen, but not one that I'm going to be telling today. Although it is one that I've told previously, so just go back through all them. So the point is that we missed a round. We are in round 5. Both of these players, I want to say they're both 4-0. So you do see this sometimes. These players are having a bit of a play. It might be that they win one game each and decide to ID, or it might be that they decide to play it out. We shall see. Suffice to say, both these players are in a fantastic position to get into cut. Although I should point out at this stage, Luke's a good friend of mine. I was chatting to him throughout the tournament, and we see an end in turn 1 from Jono here. And Luke made it very clear that he was not particularly worried about cutting this tournament. Luke needed a top 16 finish to secure his Worlds invite. He's already at 4-0. So before this round, Luke was saying about IDing and such, because essentially, in his words, I don't really need to get top 8. As long as I get top 16, I get into Worlds. That's what I'm worried about. So I might just make room in top 8 for people that really want to get in top 8, need top 8 to get their points. Luke's a nice chap, though he would sometimes not let you know it. Nah, I'm joking. Luke's awesome. So, Jono here, like I said, in the previous round, he's not got his world invite yet. He hasn't played very much, but he got a top 16 at Blackpool Regionals before this. He started off 4-0 here. Jono has not got his world's invite because he's not good. That is far from the truth, ladies and gentlemen. Jono has not got his Worlds invite because he hasn't played enough this season. But hopefully he's going to play a whole bunch more tournaments. Hopefully he'll get his Worlds invite. Jono's a good player. He's the kind of guy that deserves to be playing at Worlds. So we see a level ball come down here for a Tynamo. And we see a Fighting Fury bout go on the Raikou. And now ideally here there'd be another Tynamo on the bench. This isn't like in the previous round. Oh, and we just see a VS Seeker come down to grab an N. This isn't like in the previous round where we saw Jono not trying to get Eels down in game 1 because he was slightly apprehensive about Slowking putting all the energy onto the Eels. This is very much a case of he wants his deck to just run like it does. Jono has the advantage here if his deck runs like it should, and so, yeah, that's what he wants to do. He wants to get his deck rolling. So only one Tynamo is a bit of a disadvantage, but we can work with this. Now, Luke here plays the Ultra Ball for the Hooper. Why didn't he grab an Ultra Ball for Hooper in the previous game? The answer is he didn't need to. And like I was talking about in the game between Jono and Adam, these are the subtle little plays we look for. A lot of people think, right, I've got Hooper, I've got an EX heavy deck, let's go for a Hooper. In the previous game, Luke said, you know what, look, I'm going to empty out my hand. I've got an Evil Tally X, and I can search for any 2 EXs or any 2 basics at all. So all I really need to do here is go ahead and grab a Darkrai, because I want that to use that as my main attacker here, especially if he starts getting those lightning attackers going, because Darkrai's weak to fighting, not electric. And I want to grab some more cards, so rather than grab a Hooper, I don't need a Hooper. I can grab a Darkrai and a Shaman, grab some more cards, and off we go. It's a kind of subtle little play we see from players who are experienced. I mean, Luke, a few years ago, he did get 3rd place at Worlds. Now, it was in seniors, but as we've seen from many a person, Ryan Morehouse not accepted, of course, you know, he's very much one of these people. Really, really good seniors, when they get into Masters, tend to just carry on and play very well in the Masters division. Luke's one of those people. He was very, very good as a senior. Like I say, he got 3rd place at Worlds. And then he carried on, and he's just been good at Masters. He's one of those chaps, he's at Worlds every year. He qualifies every year. So, Luke there, he's gone for a Hooper. He grabbed a couple of things, including an Evil Tally X, and then he immediately got rid of the Evil Tally X. Why would he do that? Evil Tally X is not his attacker of choice in this matchup. Now, he used it well in the previous game, but bear in mind, in the previous game, he used it to do a big attack on turn 2 to knock out a pesty Raikou to essentially win the game. He put him in such an overwhelmingly good position, Jono scooped straight afterwards. In a general game here, attacking with Evil Tally X, all it really does is say, you know what, have 2 free prizes. Now, he has got an Evil Tally X there. Having one is not the end of the world here. As we saw in the previous game, it's still really good for getting those big KOs. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, it's not something we really want to be using on a regular basis. Having one out for big attacks is good, but only one. He'll still need to knock out a couple other EXs to win the game. Now, Luke's also put down that baby Yveltal there, the non-EX Yveltal. The thing about the non-EX Yveltal here is that it gives up 1 prize. So if it goes down, if it gets KO'd, Jono will still need to KO 3 EXs in order to win the game. So the electric weakness there on that baby Yveltal, hey Nick, really isn't a terrible thing at all. In fact, the only real downside is it takes free energy in order to actually be able to attack with it. Here's a big problem for Luke, though, in this matchup. And you see he's playing a lot of cards, he's doing a lot of things. He's going to get rid of a couple of Dark Energy here so that he can recover them using Dark Patch. Only one, and a Hex Maniac. That's the item card that allows you to attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Dark Pokemon. And here's the problem. What does Luke actually do? Because he can't really use Yveltal EX. And the baby Yveltal there, I mean, he does 60 to the active and 60 to a benched EX. Now, Jono currently has no benched EXs, and it won't actually get a 2-hit KO on Raikou, because Raikou's got 120 HP, but that ability that reduces damage done by 20 if you've got a lightning energy attached. So actually, all it's really going to do is 40 damage to a Raikou, 60 to a benched EX, and then get KO'd, which is far from ideal. So Luke here, he plays a Battle Compressor. He's going to want to discard he's going to have the option of discarding free cards from his deck. Any free cards that he likes. Now, in a dark deck like this, unless you're playing something like Archeops and Yveltal, then there's three things you do. Number one, you discard Dark Energy so you can reuse it with Dark Patch, as previously mentioned. Number two, you discard Supporters so you can reuse them with VS Seeker, like previously mentioned. And number three, you thin your deck. You just get rid of cards in your deck that you don't want to draw into. Because the less cards you've got in your deck, the more likely it is that you're going to top deck, draw for your turn, a card which is useful to you. So Luke's looking at that and going, look, I've got all of my Pokemon out that I want. I don't really need Battle Compressor anymore. I'm only using it to thin my deck. So let's get rid of an Ultra Ball, let's get rid of a Battle Compressor, and let's get rid of a Floatstone. I've already got a Floatstone on my Caldeo, and I'm willing to bet Jono doesn't play cards like Zerosic or Startling Megaphone. And even if he does, he's not playing something like Laser, making a card like Caldeo far less useful. Obviously, Caldeo EX is really good. He's got that rushing ability that allows you to pop him in the active. Then you pop a Floatstone on and you free retreat. Nice and simply. So if you get put asleep by Laser and poisoned, you rush in with Caldeo, you free retreat. And then that poison damage, that poison damage stays. But the poison goes away, the sleep goes away, and you are sitting there pretty. You're sitting there happy, ladies and gentlemen. But Jono's not playing stuff like that. So this is not a matchup where Caldeo is that important. It's good in the early game to get the attacker you want in the active. But after that, Caldeo is only really going to be fantastically useful if you end up in a situation where, you know, your opponent plays something like a Lysander to drag maybe that Hooper into the active and try and get a cheeky 2-hit KO. So we see a Laser here, we see a Heads. There is no Virbank down, so it's just going to do 10 damage at the end of the turn. And we see a retreat into Baby Yveltal. Why would he do that? Like I've said. Oh, and we see a Tails on the sleep. Baby Yveltal gives up one prize. He's got a lightning weakness, and he takes 3 energy. What, double colorless and a whatchamacallit? A dark. We'd see a Sycamore straight away from Jono. Wants to draw cards. He knows what he's doing here. So, I mean, really here. Oh, and then we see that Rough Seas again. That's very useful. And basically, Luke's just saying, you know what? Look, I'm not going to be able to use this Baby Yveltal to its full effectiveness. So, go ahead. Knock yourself out. See if I care. So we see a Battle Compressor. He's getting rid of a couple Lightning Energy. Again, those Electros. Electros actually works very much like a Dark Patch. It's an ability, and you get to attach a basic Lightning from your discard to one of your benched Pokemon. Not to your active like Dark Patch, although unlike Dark Patch, you can attach it to any type of Pokemon you like. Now, I would still like to see another Dynamo here from Jono. If he has 2 Electrics out, then that means he can use Dynamotor twice in one turn and his energy attachment, and then he gets his attack. Oh, now that is a shame that Sleep Flip ended up big, because I think I saw a hint of a Jolteon EX in Jono's hand there. Now, Jolteon EX does 70 damage and then cannot be attacked by... and cannot be attacked or cannot be damaged by basic Pokemon the following turn. Now, I think this is going to be a KO. Oh no, it's not going to be a KO because of that Fighting Fury bout. So it's going to do 90 damage because the Muscle Band and the ability cancel each other out. Plus we've had 3 turns of poison here, which is 120 in total. 10 after Luke's, 10 after Jono's, 10 after Luke's is 30, plus a 90. So if Luke can get something like a Zorosic next turn, or a Tool Scrapper, or a Startling Megaphone, then he can actually use that to get rid of the Fighting Fury bat and get a KO mid-turn. Oh, and that's horrible. We see an AZ come down there, and now we see the Jolteon EX go up. I was right, there was a Jolteon EX in his hand, and he's got a double colourless in his hand as well. So he benches Jolteon, attaches double colourless, uses Electric's Dynamotor to attach an energy to it, and now he does 70 damage, and he cannot be damaged by basic Pokemon next turn. Now, if he were to go to the bench and come back into the active, then that would go away. So Luke could play something like an Escape Rope to pop him onto the bench, and then a Lysander to bring him into the active. And Luke could here use something like a Night Spear on the Darkrai, and he would still get to do the residual 30 damage, or 10 to a Raikou because of its ability and the fact that it's got a Lightning Energy attached. But this is slightly worrying for Luke now because it looks like he's got an entirely basic deck. Now, if he was playing the build of Yveltal with Archeops and Gallade, and again, I encourage you quite strongly to go and check out my Dark Deck video. Link in the comments. It's a good video. I'm going to be honest, I like it. I think it's a very good video. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of myself for making it. My mum's not that proud. She doesn't like Pokemon. But if my mum did like Pokemon, I think she'd be proud of me for it. As it is, she thinks I'm a grown man that spends way too much time playing, thinking about, and making videos about Pokemon. But I say, sorry, mum. I love you. You're my mum and all, but you're wrong. And I've completely lost my train of thought there. There we go. Gallade. Gallade for a double colourless energy, if you played a supporter, does 130 damage or 260 to a fighting weak Pokemon, like Jolteon. And although you put it on your bench as if it were a basic, it does not count as a basic. So if Luke was playing that build with Gallade, he could just go boom, Gallade, ha 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 ha, in your stupid face Jolteon. But he's not playing that. So there's very little he can do. Now there is an argument here that Luke should have put the Keldeo in the active because that Rough Seas is out. So here, Jono is going to do 30 damage to the Keldeo, to the Hooper, 70 damage, and then Luke can't heal the 30 because it's a Psychic type. Whereas Keldeo, being a Water type, can use Rough Seas, so Jono could have hit the Keldeo for 70 with Jolteon, and then Luke could have healed it with... And then Luke could have healed it with Rough Seas, and then so it's only got 40 damage on. And then he could have healed it the following turn as well. Just a little thing, and it might be that Luke's worried about I don't know how he really could get a big one-hit KO, to be honest. No, I think, to be honest, I would have put the Keldeo there. But then again, if it doesn't get fully healed, and Jono plays a Lysander next turn to KO the Keldeo, I mean, Keldeo's a lot less useful than... a lot more useful than Hooper. So we see a Juniper there from Jono, and then we get 70 damage on that Hooper. And we see here, it seems like it's only a matter of time at this stage till Jono wins this game. Now, he hasn't taken any prizes, but we've got that Hooper that's, you know, down to, I think, 100 HP. And then we've got that Darkrai who's taken a whole bunch of damage. And we've got that Yveltal that's weak to lightning. That Shaman who's got 110 HP and is weak to lightning. And it's not looking good, ladies and gentlemen. It's not looking good at all. But you never know. Maybe he can pull something out here. So we saw a computer search from Jono last turn. It looks like we're going to see a computer search from Luke this turn. This is a rough matchup for Luke. I mean, Raikou on his own is pretty inconvenient. You know, just the Raikou is a pain in the neck. Because, oh, and Luke scoops. Luke goes, you know what? There's nothing I can do this game. There's nothing I can do this game. I've lost. You've got the Jolteon. You've got the Raikou. And I don't want to play this game anymore. Now, a little bit of context here, because I do know what happened from the chaps. Essentially, they decided, you know what? Let's just ID. Now, you can decide halfway through a game to ID. There's no rule against it. Neither player was coerced or asked into IDing, and now they're just sorting out for a deck check. So Luke won the first game, Jono won the second game, and then they said, you know what? Jono's like, look, if I ID, I'm 401, I'm probably making top 8. I've seen the other decks around the top tables. I like my chances of top cut. And Luke said, you know what? If we ID, I'm going to be 401, and I like my chances of making top 16, and then I get my Worlds invite. Do you fancy playing it out? Good people, good friends. And they said, you know what? Nah, let's not bother. We don't need to play this game out, so we're not going to. Why did I still upload this game? We still got to see some interesting decks. We got to see some nice plays. And we got to talk some Pokemon. And I think that alone, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty good. If you think I shouldn't have uploaded this game because we only saw 2 out of 3 games, then feel free to pop it in the comments. But I'll remind you, I can only record the games which... I can only record one game around, and I can only record the game that happens. And to be perfectly honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen games that have been donks or, as with every stream, end in a couple of minutes, and this was a darn sight more interesting than those games. We got to talk about some good plays. Now, as always, I'd like to give a big thank you to Athena Games in Norwich, one of my favourite places to play in the UK. You should all get down there. They made it super easy for me, etc. Thank you to Luke and to Jono for agreeing to be on stream. I very much appreciate it, chaps. You are lovely, lovely people. And for you guys, ladies and gentlemen, click that like button. It will take but a second. I'm assuming you've clicked it by now. If not, why do you hate me? Make sure you comment if you've got anything to say, if you want to ask about either deck, if you want to point out some plays that they made, some different plays they could have made, or if you just want to say how nice Jono's watch looks. Or indeed, Luke's Rayquaza hat. And make sure you subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, make sure that you get a friend to subscribe on your behalf. And of course, the most important thing, thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio. And if you've actually, I didn't notice this, but if you've been paying very close attention, you might be able to work out their deck list from what you've just seen.